Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody always asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. I'm going to do that by breaking down the mindsets of guests and my own to figure out what makes people say, why not? Hey guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I'm talking about the excuses that we use in order to not get into fitness or, get back on the horse, whatever. And I just want to say that I'm not talking about I'm not being that oh, you just make time. You have time, make time. It's not that. It's looking at it a little bit differently, like how we maybe build things up or how we can break things down and make it way less daunting so it's easier to get going, and little things we can just implement in daily life that can make a huge difference over time. And I'm going to let you guys listen, and hopefully you find these tips interesting and helpful. With that, guys, I just want you to sit back and relax or walk and listen, but here is my episode on the excuses we make to not get fit. Hey guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I am talking about excuses that are holding you back. Okay, so I first want to start this by saying that I'm not being that personal trainer who's young and fit and has loads of time and is saying all you need to do is make time if you want to do well, because that's really, really stupid and annoying. I know people have families and lives and work and stuff like that, and especially with people having to go back to work now, we're not all working from home. A lot of people are commuting again. That takes upwards of 2 hours out of your day. If you're lucky, you have a short commute, but most people are talking at least an hour when you count on getting to the station or getting the bus and getting into wherever you're going, or even driving. So I just want to start by saying that first. However, I do think we allow ourselves to make a lot of excuses sometimes when we want to start, or maybe we don't want to start, and we have built it up so much in our head that we are finding every reason not to do it. And that's what I want to talk about today. It's not just get up a little bit earlier. It's not just do your workout in the evening, or you have the time, you're just not arsed doing it. It's more what we can do to put in place to help ourselves get around those excuses that are stopping us getting going. And some of these things might be not what you expected. You might be expecting something completely different, or this is not here to give out. It's more to kind of encourage and help us to actually move forward and be able to get started instead of constantly having a reason not to. Because I find a lot of people do kind of have that a lot, where they may have built it up in their head that they don't have the time, they cannot do it, they have to do this, that and the other. There's loads of different reasons, and when we break it down, you probably could fit in stuff, but what's happened is you made this big massive thing that you can't achieve. Not that you can't achieve, but you really don't have the time to achieve. And that sometimes is to do with marketing and how we believe it's supposed to be a really, really big life change to get where we want to, and it's not always that. So that's why I want to talk about it. So I suppose the biggest one that we do have is the time thing. So a lot of people will say oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time. And as I said, it's not so as simple as maybe getting up an hour earlier, or different things, because we have lives, we have work, we have different things. So one of the things I want to talk about is plan your day, plan your week. So these times we are in work. Okay, so if you're in work these times, when can you say feasibly, don't say you're going to work 5 days a week, you're not going to. Can you fit in 3 sessions? Can you, if you're still working from home, can you potentially do it straight after work? If you are on a commute, can you do it on the way home? Is there can you go to a gym, have a shower and go into work, or on the other way around, go to the gym, have your stuff in the boot of the car, or bring it with you and you pop in after? So is this something you can work in and then you can go to the gym? Or if you've got kids, what different kids activities are they on? Are they playing football? Can you go to a gym class while they're doing their football, or if they're at their tennis or their badminton or whatever? That time you're waiting for them, or sitting in the car waiting for them or whatever, maybe you could go in and go into the gym, or you could go for a walk, or little things like this. And we kind of almost forget that we have these little pockets of time that if you're prepared for it, you can do it. And what you need to do with that is plan it. So you look at your week and you go, okay, I'm working this day, this day, this day, from this time, this time, this time. Can I fit in a gym class or a workout or a walk or something at this time? Okay, Johnny has football at this time. I can sneak off for an hour or 45 minutes and I can get some stuff done. And these are little things we do because we need to work in these plans. Like we do plan like our kids, we plan our job, we plan, you know, um, nights out, like, we know we're going to this at this time, things like this, but we never look to sit down and go, what time do I have free for the gym? You're going to go, oh, I'll just go 5 days this week. And then you're like, oh, I'm tired, I'm not going to go today. Oh, I'm not going to go today. We don't have the plan. And this actually also works for when it comes to food. So, it's very easy, as I said, if you're busy to kind of get caught up and not say have time to have food, or then suddenly you're ravenous and you end up snacking on stuff that'll give you quick hits of energy quickly, and then you'll be hungry pretty soon after. But instead of that, what can we do to put plans in place to help ourselves maybe stay in a more nutritious amount types of food? As I'm not saying good or bad, I'm saying things that'll make you feel fuller, things that'll give you more energy, more nutrients, that kind of thing, as opposed to something like it's going to be like high calorie, high sugar, quick hit. And this can be done as well. So I've talked about meal prepper. I don't know if I've talked about meal prep before in this, and sometimes that sounds like a massive thing that you need to do, like as in like it's a big ordeal that you have to sit out and get all the things together and have all your weeks of meals planned and done and ready. But it can be as simple as, if you are making dinner one night, you make a bigger portion and then you have your dinner for the next night, or you have your lunch for the next day and you have a bigger meal, as opposed to just having maybe a sandwich at lunchtime and coming to dinner being starving. And like this also goes for if you were training, like if you were training that day or you're busy that day, having something in the fridge, or something that was in the freezer that you might make for a week ago, and you just pop it out and let it defrost and then you reheat it in the evening, can really stop you going for those less nutritious high calorie options. So a little bit of planning ahead can be really good, and structure is something that I think we need more of, but we don't want to do it because it feels like it's, in a sense, getting like we want to like go with the flow, or we don't want to have every part of our life structured. But a lot of the time you find when you start doing these things become a lot easier because you know what you're doing and you have a plan. And like that, you have what you're doing in work, things like that. This can transfer into your life. It doesn't mean like everything has to be rigid. Things can change through the day. Something might happen, maybe you have an emergency with one of the kids, or you have a flat tire or something. But again, having these little things in plan that you can do can come in really handy. So like that, like planning your food, and getting maybe on those days that that you have less things on, you can cook a bigger meal and you have something for the next day. So it's things that like we can just bring into our life, as opposed to making it this big thing. You don't have to do Sunday week meal prep. You don't have to be like a bikini athlete who does that. But maybe you have a couple hours on a Sunday and you can cook a big stew, or you can make a big thing of pasta, and that could be a couple of days food as well. So like if you're on your own, this can work too. Like I know some people don't like eating the same thing over and over, but if it helps you eat a more balanced diet, it could come in really, really handy. It doesn't have to be chicken and rice. It can be a pasta bake. It can be, curry. It can be anything that you can make a big thing of, and just leave there for the week, and even freeze maybe one or two servings. So if there's a week where you can't get it done, you can just pull it out of the freezer. So it comes in really, really handy. Another thing is, people kind of think that when we go training we have to be doing these really long sessions, and you don't. You don't need to be trained for 2 hours. So if you don't have time for 2 hours, you just won't do it. And it makes it really easy to just not do it. Whereas maybe you have time for a half-hour walk, or maybe you have time at lunch to go out. Like, this is a good example. Like, even if you're working in the office, or even if you're working from home, you have a lunch break. A lot of us have an hour-long lunch break. Get out and go for half an hour walk on that break, especially if you're working from home, because you need to get out of your apartment. You also need to get out of work. Like, if you go for half an hour, it gives you time to have some food on your lunch and walk away. Like, if you're working from home, you might be able to eat beforehand and then have a longer walk, or even, if you're in work, if you have food with you already, you'll have time to get out. And we need this break as well for our own head, like, because you're stuck in a building all day, especially if you're working from home, you're not leaving. So getting out and getting some fresh air and going for a little half an hour, even 10-minute walk, like just getting some fresh air, some sunlight, can make a huge difference. And getting into the habit of doing this, especially like even if you don't have time at lunch, when you get home, the evenings at the moment, it's perfect. They're getting longer, the evenings are brighter. So why not get out for 10 minutes? Like, it's gonna do more for not even just your physical health, but also your mental health, because it's breaking you out of that just work home, you know, thing that we get sucked into. And you realize over time that this actually helps as well. Like, so maybe you don't have time to go to a gym or go to do workouts or whatever. You can go for a little walk. Like, that's going to make a difference. You may not think it will, but over time it will. And like that as well, just because you can't get to a gym, if you want to do certain home workouts, there's a lot of things you can do at home with minimal equipment, and body weight even, that can help. And again, I'm not talking about HIIT exercises where you have to be going balls to the wall for the half an hour. You can do a nice, like, strength based exercise, or even like if you want to do yoga or Pilates or anything like that, that can also really, really help. And again, just because they're short periods of time doesn't mean they're not going to make a difference. If you are doing a short workout or a short walk 5 days a week versus nothing, because you can't get an hour long in 5 days a week or 7 days a week, you're already winning. Do you see? You're already winning by doing a little bit more than you could. Now, maybe when you get into the swing of it, you can add on a little bit more. But even if you can't, you're still doing more than what you were before. So that's why I'm saying, when people think they build it up into this big thing, that it has to be this big, massive change, and because of it, they never start. Whereas when they can be doing these small, little incremental changes, you're already going to be ahead at the end of the month than you were a month before, when you sat on the couch the whole time because you don't have time. So I think we can all find a little bit of time in our day to do something that helps us feel better, and is not just like work, kids, like, that kind of related. And, you know, when we start doing these things, like, people don't want to do it because they don't seem like it's enough. But when we start doing it, we realize it actually makes a huge difference over time. And like, it is that whole, like, building it up. Like, people don't want things to be, they don't want it to be, for want of a better description, easy, because they don't feel like it should be easy, because we're told you need to be like drenched in sweat and, you know, gasping for air in order to get to where you want to, but you don't. Like, personally, myself, I do lift quite heavy weights. That's the way I enjoy training. I normally train about 45 minutes. It can be a bit longer depending how faffy I am, but I can do that. And sometimes I will train and I won't break a sweat. And that's completely normal, but I'm still building muscle and changing things over time. I don't do high intensity training myself. It's just not for me. It's something I don't really enjoy, so I don't do it. And that, to me, I still get the results I want by doing it and not sweating profusely all the time. So I think that's another thing that I always try to say to people as well, is find a type of exercise that you enjoy. So, do you like walking? Great. Do you like running? Great. Do you like weightlifting? Brilliant. Do you like a TRX class? Do you like a spin class? Something like that. And I always find this as well, like, when it comes to having a class to go to or something you need to go to, it really makes a difference as well, because you're kind of locked in, you're scheduled in, you have to be there at this time. it's almost like there's no excuse. If you have friends to train with and you pick a time, that kind of thing really, really helps. The classes as well, they have a great community element, and that's why a lot of people enjoy classes, is because they get to know people. There's people they wouldn't never met before, and they see each other in class and they're chatting away and they're best friends, and it makes you look forward to going to the class. So even if it's going to be hard and strenuous, you're like, yeah, I'm going to see my friends, and I'm also improving my health. So again, you're socializing, improving your mental health. Now especially that everything has been lifted and you're allowed to do it, I think it's great for people. It's a kind of undervalued thing, and yes, it can be absolutely terrifying coming into a class that you've never been to and you don't know anyone, but I guarantee it, you will make friends pretty quickly, because a lot of the time a lot of people in the classes are kind of the same stage in life, so they always find something common to talk about, and from there you just become friends, and it's great to see. One thing I will say, and when it comes to certain exercises and stuff like that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with any form of exercise, but you need to realize, if you are doing something you enjoy, it may not necessarily give you the goal you want. So say for instance, if you want to build muscle and get really like jacked, or girls say toned, which by the way is building muscle. I say this a lot. You know, going running and going walking isn't going to do that. Like, you aren't working in the same way that you would in order to build muscle. So like things like that. Like, so do be aware, if you are picking the likes of, like, cardio or a dance class, and you want to get bigger shoulders or like a nice bum, you're not going to be doing exercise that is like conducive to that. So like that same thing as well, like, if you want to improve your cardiovascular health, going to a weightlifting thing may not be conducive to that. So if there is a certain goal that you have that you want, you do need to work in the parameters of what is needed in order to achieve that goal, and you have to be able to accept that you may not like what you have to do, but you have to accept that is what you need to do in order to get to what you want. So if you're willing to do the work, you can get into the routine of doing it. But if you absolutely hate it, just realize while doing an exercise you enjoy, you may not necessarily get the results you want, okay? Which, totally fine. Sometimes the enjoyment is more important than the results. As I said, like, it's a mental health thing as well as a physical health thing, because the thing about exercise is it's not all about aesthetics and weight loss and looking good and things like that. And I think that's why people struggle a lot about it as well, is because they're trying to force themselves to do things they don't enjoy because they'll get a result that they think they want. And when you kind of move out of that spin, and that's not healthy, by the way, weight loss isn't always healthy, fat loss isn't always healthy, and we have to remember that. So if you're forcing yourself to do something you don't enjoy for a result that is something you want, it's going to be hard to maintain. So if we want to try and change as well, we want to find out why we want to do it. Like, we want to scratch lower than the surface. We don't want it to just be an aesthetic goal, because an aesthetic goal isn't enough to sustain you going through something you can't stand. And I know this myself from experience. Like, I find it very hard to do stuff when I don't like it. Like, if I have a goal in mind, like I'm trying to run at the moment because I'm supposed to be running a half marathon in July, and I don't like running, and once that half marathon is done, I'll probably stop running again. And I have found that I've been really, really dedicated to training when I've had that in front of me, but it's been cancelled a few times, and every time it was cancelled, I stopped running straight away because I didn't have something to drive me to do it. I didn't have a reason above, I want to do this, to do it. And this will be the same for you. If you just have, say, an aesthetic goal and you're forcing yourself to do something, you're not going to be able to sustain it. So you need to find out why you want to do it, okay? What are you looking for? What is your end goal? If it's losing weight because you think you're supposed to, it's probably not going to keep you going. If it's because you want to be fitter to play with your kids, that's more reason to it. If you just feel better and stronger and want to like carry all the shopping in one go, again, that's another good reason um to do stuff. But again, like a lot of the time, if we have an aesthetic reason, it's kind of from outside forces and like outside influence. Like we've been taught you should look a certain way to be healthy, when that's not always the case, and it's very hard to come to terms and accept that. A lot of us struggle with that, but we need to be able to do that and realize that like exercise isn't a chore. It shouldn't be something you despise. Now, some people don't like exercising, but it it can be enjoyable. Sometimes it can just be the mindset shift that changes, like that, like you're going to gym class because it'll improve how I feel about myself, but also I get to see my friends. Or you're going to that dance class because I've such a laugh when I miss all the steps, and I'm like, um and I feel so good now that I get the patterns well compared to when I started. Or I'm going for a run because I know I can improve this time, and I know I'm like I will be so good when I will feel so good when I finish that half marathon, and that's what promotes me to go in at the moment, because I'm like, it's an achievement. It's not about fat loss for me running. It's about being able to do something that I've never done before, and that's what keeps me going doing it. So that's why when it's been cancelled, I'm no longer interested, because I don't have that end goal. Um, and look, here's the thing as well. Like, when it comes to setting a goal, like a lot of us have these big massive goals, but they seem so daunting again that we never even try, because like that, like say for instance, for example, me running a half marathon, it's months of training. You don't just go out and run. It's 21k. um you don't just go out and run that. So what do? You break it down. You look at, okay, I'm going to start running a 5k first, then hopefully I'll add a k on here or there, and then maybe when it gets closer I'll run a 5k, and keep that going until I've, like, on the day I'll run the 21k. And if I just went out and tried to run 21k the first day, I would either not even try, or I'd give up, and I'd be like, oh shit, I can't do this. I'm never going to do it. But you need to break it down to smaller little chunks. So like that, if you're looking to improve your fitness or improve a certain element, break down, what do I need to do? Okay, how can I make this as easy for myself? So step one, I'm going to say, for instance, okay, so we want to get into working out and getting back to feeling strong and that kind of thing. So step one, okay, I'm going to plan to go to the gym twice this week. I'm going to walk 2 days as well for 10 minutes, and I'm going to make a bigger dinner on Tuesday and Thursday, so I have food on, say, Wednesday and Friday, when normally I don't. That could be a lot in one week. So maybe you could just go, okay, that becomes already overwhelming for if you're really out of the loop of this. So maybe we go, okay, I'm just going to go gym twice this week. Take out the other two. Next week, see if you can add in the walk. Yeah, next week add in the meals. And by the end of the week, or by the end of the month, you've got some new things that you are trying, and you're kind of maybe getting into the swing of it. And maybe then you can go, okay, maybe I could fit a third gym session in. Maybe, but then maybe you can't. So maybe I can actually take an extra walk, or maybe not. Or maybe this week I'm actually going to start trying to drink a little bit more water. So I'll get a big bottle and I'll fill it and I leave it on my desk, and I remind myself to drink it every day. And that could be your next step. Like, it doesn't have to be this massive overhaul. And this is the problem. We get used to habits, and then we try to do a massive overhaul one go. So we start and we go, I'm going to go gym 5 days a week. I'm going to drink loads of water, and I'm going to do this, and this. And without having the foundations, you can't. It's very hard to sustain, because it becomes very difficult. And the thing with, when it comes to fitness or getting into the habit of going to the gym, because it is like, it's coming up to summer, so people are going to be back in the gyms for their holidays. We need to take it gradually, because it's not an end date. So your health and fitness is not an end date like that. You don't magically be fixed in 8 weeks. You don't magically, I say fixed, you don't need to be fixed, but you don't suddenly have everything perfect. No one ever is perfect, but you know what I mean? Don't have that in 8 weeks. You like, you know, if you want to be fit or be good at something in a sense, you need to consistently do it like that. You need to consistently build habits that'll keep you rolling over. Um like like if you want to get fit or whatever for your holiday, you still need to maintain it after. And that's the hard part, because everyone kind of almost looks at it as an end date. They're like, oh, there's a new thing I need to take up. It's that's not an issue, like, you know. And that's why I talk about these little things. So these little things that we do compounds over time, and before you know, you have these habits that you're used to. And when things go wrong or things go different, because not every week, again, like, there's no such thing as perfection, not every week is going to go the way you want it. There's going to be something that's going to happen, and it happens regularly. You're not going to freak out and stop because everything's ruined. You'll go, okay, grand, so I'll just pick up this again tomorrow. And sometimes you can have a whole week to go skew ways and different things like that. But when that happens, you'll be prepared to deal with it. Whereas now, you're probably, every time anything goes quote unquote wrong, you throw the baby out with the bathwater and it's all over, because you're not letting that time to adjust back. And this happens when you're starting back as well, even, because we start back and drop it, and we just expect to be back where we were before, and when we're not, it's really frustrating. But like that, how can you expect to be if you haven't been doing it, like, you know? So this is why I try to say, like, you know, do these little things in compound, because on the flip side, any bad habits, for want of a better description, or habits that you've gotten into have compounded over time too. Like, you didn't stop moving. I don't know, you didn't stop. I'm trying to figure out what kind of things we could do. You didn't say scrolling on your phone for 4 hours a day every day, or you didn't get into these other habits. I can't think of anything, like, sorry, but you know what I mean. These things didn't happen overnight, so it takes time to undo them, but they also compound over time. So you get into these almost ruts where you can't you feel like you can't get out of. And this is where we feel like we need to do an overhaul, when, again, if we just start with the small steps, slow it down, build it up over time, and you'll get there. A lot of this stuff does take patience, and we don't want to be patient because we're told it doesn't need to be patient, but we need to be patient, because anything worth achieving takes time. Nothing's done overnight. Anyone will tell you that. There's no overnight successes. You need to take time. And instead of letting all these, I say, excuses get in the way of you ever starting, break it down, start smaller, stop looking for the grand overhaul, and this will be the biggest difference. Figure out when you can schedule it in, write it down, schedule it, when you can do, what you can do. If that is just a walk a few times a week, that's brilliant. It's not just a walk, it's more than what you're doing. If it is being able to make a few extra dinners on a Sunday or your day off, you know, making a batch of food, or if it's just making a bigger dinner the night before and having that, that's another win. If it's just remembering to drink more water, again, another win. Like, these are things that we really take for granted when it comes to trying to get fitter, stronger, better, whatever our goal is. We just look at the end goal and go, I can't do that because that's too hard. But we don't realize that if we took a bit more time, we can do it, and we can actually just bring it back, strip it back to the start, and we no longer now have an excuse. Things are not meant to be perfect. Life isn't perfect. So just because your diet isn't perfect, again, air quotes, because your exercise plan isn't perfect, again, air quotes, doesn't mean you can't get results you want. Everything's going to take longer than you need, or than you want it to. So being able to accept that and move forward and start working on what you want, and being like a bit more honest with what you think the results can be, or what you like expect, these are going to be huge, make huge difference compared to just kind of going gung-ho and giving up after a few weeks. So I hope this helps. So if anyone who's struggling at the moment getting going, or feel like there's everything in the way that they can't ever get started, hopefully this will give them a few ideas on where they can get started and how it's not as such a monumental task to get going, and it can really easily you can really easily start to make small changes that can build up over time, instead of just ignoring it and never doing it. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope this helped. As ever, if you are looking to find me, you'll find me on Instagram and TikTok. It is Chrissy H Fitness, and also my website is www.chrissyhawkins.com, and there you can find out working with me. And if you need any help with all these, feel free to drop me a message, or if you found this helpful, drop me a message. I love to hear. And thank you for listening. Thank you again for listening to the Why Not podcast. It really means a lot that you are listening in, and I would love if you could please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or subscribe on Spotify. And always, I'd love to hear feedback personally, so if you do want to leave me a message and let me know how you found the podcast, please do.